Another very, very, very special edition of the Magpie Circle podcast today. We're joined by Notts County royalty, Tommy Johnson. Welcome, Tommy.
Paul, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm very well. I'm very well. And until I was doing my prep for this show, clearly you are a legend for the club. 57 goals in 149 appearances. That's pretty good. You're not actually that far behind Lee Hughes when it comes to average goal per game ratio. Very, very good. But I hadn't realised we should be wishing you a happy birthday. From a teenager at Notts County, you're going to be saying goodbye to your 40s and hello 50 on when we're broadcasting on the Friday of this week, yeah?
Certainly is, mate. Sorry, it's gone quick. Believe me. Damn, mate. So
you've lost a bit of the barnet, but you're still looking pretty sprightly.
I do it myself every couple of weeks. It's getting grey now, but it's still fox on top. Still a bit of ginger on top, but no, 50. It's strange because of the times we're having at the minute. So
no big party.
Oh yeah, what? Me, the wife, and the kids. That'll be it. So no, be nothing daft. You can't go anywhere, can you? Might go on my bike for an hour. That'll be about it outside, and do a bit of work, and then have a few drinks with the young'uns.
Right. You're coping okay in lockdown because obviously you're full time with Blackpool, aren't you, at the minute? What's your role there?
I'm head of recruitment, so we haven't stopped. To be honest, Mace, we've been since first furlough, to be honest, and first lockdown, we've carried on. You know, we got a lot of our signings done in the summer, big overhaul of the squad, a lot of outgoings, a lot of incomings. So we just probably might need to top up now in January. But basically, my day is just watching games on the laptop at the minute. That's what I'm doing. So, and having a look at players, doing reports, and then just keeping in touch with the scouts and the people at the club, because obviously you can't get up there. It's because of lockdown.
Before we dive into your childhood at Newcastle and Notts County, many commiserations regards Northern Ireland, because obviously you have a role there working under another former Notts man, Ian Barraclough, yeah, and just missing out in the cruelest of fashions, yeah?
Yeah, it was very, very disappointing and frustrating. You know, we got through the playoff game against Bosnia, done really well, winning on penalties, and then, you know, to get Slovakia, we think, at Windsor Park. It would have been better if there was fans in. There was a few in, but they still made some noise. But yeah, we played well. We got back into the game. You know, everything was going well, and unfortunately, one slip up in extra time, and that was it. It was so disappointing because the lads had been brilliant from start to finish. And as I said, just so disappointing because I'd been in. I went to the Euros in 2016 to watch Northern Ireland against Germany, so I knew what it was like for the country and the fans. You know, little Northern Ireland making it to the Euros, and most of the players had been there before. So, you know, it was just one, but we just fell at the final hurdle. Very, very, as I said, frustrating and disappointing. But we've got the World Cup qualifiers coming up. They start in March, so we've got an easy game of Italy away first, so that's not too bad. 3 points there, and then we'll kick on.
We'll come on to Northern Ireland a little bit later. That'll probably be part two. Let's take you back from celebrating your 50th birthday to back to being a schoolboy in Newcastle. Although I think you've educated me already. You were born in Newcastle, grew up in Gateshead. You were a Newcastle fan, weren't you?
Yeah.
Well, your dad certainly was, wasn't he?
A young'un, yeah. I supported Newcastle when Arthur Cox was there, which is ironic because he signed us later on when I left Notts, and Kevin Keegan was there, Gaza, you know, Chris Waddle, Terry McDermott, so Beardsley, just growing up. I think everybody does, either Newcastle, Sunderland, up the road, even though we don't like to mention Sunderland, mates, you know. So supported them, yeah, from a young age, and fortunate to get a few games during the Keegan era before I came down to Notts County.
Because I presume it was pretty hard getting the tickets, wasn't it, when Keegan was there for you and your dad?
Oh, man, I was fortunate because I was training and on trial at Newcastle at the time, and they wanted to sign us, so it wasn't too bad. Tickets for the games.
So then, let's, for those who haven't read my book, so you are a Newcastle United fan, living in Newcastle, Newcastle are doing well under Kevin Keegan. Your dad's a mad Newcastle fan. How do you end up in Nottingham with Notts County?
Good question, to be fair, mate. Well, during the old days when we played, it was scouts, Notts County scout John Allen, who scouted for Notts up in the northeast, along with many others. He just used to play for the school on a Saturday, and then my Sunday team, fortunate enough to get asked to come down for trials. And I came down, obviously we've mentioned my birthday's on Friday. I came down in the school holidays in the December before me 14th birthday, so I was nearly 14, so I was 13, and then came down just on trial during the Christmas holidays for a week. I was fortunate enough to do well, and they asked us back. And to be perfectly honest, mate, I did go to Newcastle a few times, went to a few other clubs, but as soon as I came to Notts, that was it. I just thought, I want to, if I'm fortunate and lucky enough to be offered an apprenticeship, I wanted to come here because it was just so friendly. Jimmy Sirrel was in charge. The players were brilliant, you know. I mixed in with the apprentices and helped with the jobs and all that, and I just loved the whole family-orientated club that Notts were. And as I was getting a little bit older, Notts were in the old, as in third division, League One as it is now.
Yeah.
Newcastle were doing well in the old first division. I thought, starting at a smaller club, I'd probably hopefully get in the team at a younger age, you know, there'd be a smaller squad. And I was coming away from home. I love Newcastle, don't get me wrong, but I thought, I can get away from home. If I don't like it, I can always go back. You know, that was me thinking about that. And from the first moment I come down, I loved it. And I thought, as I said, if they're lucky enough to be offered an apprenticeship, I wanted to come down here. And it transpired that it did. And, you know, I was there. I've said many, many times to yourself, and every time I, you know, do interviews about my time at Notts and reminisce and about my career and all that, it was the best decision I ever made. You know, no doubt about it.
You tell a lovely story. Well, you tell a lot of great stories, but you tell a lovely story about meeting Jimmy Sirrel and how, with the other trials, you would never dream of seeing the first team manager. And there you were when you pulled up at Notts. There was that little Scotsman, Jimmy Sirrel, and that made an impression on you, didn't it?
Massive. You know, he was the manager, legendary manager of Notts. You know what they'd done in the old days. We're getting into the Premier League as it is now. And my first training session was with Jimmy. You know, all the schoolboys, and I think we were training with the apprentices. And the first session I ever had was with Jimmy. So I beg to differ. Any probably other managers have done that. You know, at other clubs. And that just set the scene, you know. If the manager at the time has taken an interest in the schoolboys and the apprentices who were there at the time, along with Mick Walker and Russell Slade, who were fantastic for me as well, you know, throughout my apprenticeship there. But when the manager takes time out of his, well, I've obviously been there with being caretaker, assistant manager, first team coach, whatever, and realising how difficult the job it is. Especially in them days, because it was just normally a manager and an assistant manager and a physio. That was it. Excuse me. So for him to take the time, and, you know, I was training obviously with Drapes and David Rush and the other trialists who were there and the apprentices. So to have the manager take the session was just a massive lift for us all.
It's clearly a big decision to leave home. Your dad was a Newcastle fan. What was your dad's take? What were your parents' take on you saying I don't want to stick in Newcastle? I'm going to another football club, and it happens to be about 190 miles away.
I mean, my dad wouldn't. I couldn't sign. I wasn't. You know, he was like, "No, you're going to Newcastle," and then new arguments, and I don't want to. And I remember the youth manager, Peter Kirkley, the main scout for Newcastle, was coming around my house to speak to me mum and dad and trying to get us to sign. And so I remember he come to the back door, knocked on the door, and I knew he was coming. And by the time he'd come into the house, I'd run out the front door. I was like, I don't know. I just thought the best for me was going to Notts County, and Newcastle were brilliant throughout. You know, they wanted to sign us, and says, should we bring the manager around? And I just said, no. I says, I just made my decision and all that. And it was so I'm sprinting out the front door. My dad's at the back door. And my mum's trying to get us back in at the front door. It was hilarious. But I just said, no, I want to go to Notts County. And my dad realised in the end, and he mentioned it to John Allen, the scout, who, God bless him, passed away a few years ago when I was at Celtic. He said after the playoffs, and he went, he's actually made the right decision. You know, my dad, which is for my dad at the time, was something. Do you know what I mean? Because he was proper hard on us, but he actually did admit it was the best decision for us.
So this would have been, so when did you sign your forms with Notts? Would this have been like 15 or a little bit earlier in terms of committing
Yeah, I
to
signed schoolboys, not probably, God, when I was 15, going on 16. So I came down 1987. So July 1987, I started full time. So I probably signed in the new year before that, Christmas.
Okay, so you are a young 16-year-old. You've finished school and you're coming to Nottingham on an apprenticeship. What happened in those days? Did the club put you in digs with others? Just set the scene for us as a young 16-year-old, you know, with his little suitcase coming down to Nottingham.
Definitely a little suitcase, yes, definitely. Probably in my boots, and that was it. Used to get, well, during trials and training in the summer holidays and all that, when I used to come down, I used to just get the bus down from Newcastle.
You got the old express bus?
Yeah,
National Express bus.
Get it down. Obviously, Notts didn't have a lot of money, so the train was so expensive. So I used to just get on the bus, and it was either National Express or Barton's. Would sometimes got Barton's bus down. So I come down with David Rush, Colin Todd as well, Chris Hall, who were us four were from the northeast, the 4 apprentices, and then we had Gary Mead was there. Paul Atkin, they were a year older, so there was just them two. And then the local lads, you had Drapes, John Marsland, the goalkeeper, Scott Machin from Leicester. Apologise if I miss anybody out. So, yeah, and then I was put up in the digs with John Marsland, who was from Burton, the goalie in West Bridgeford, in a house with a family, Rob and Julie Burridge, and their 2 young kids. So we were in a house in just off Melton Road, Charworth Road in West Bridgeford. So every morning it was like, because we had to be in for 9, so you'd leave about 8:30 and walk down Musters Road and then across Trent Bridge and then into the ground, do jobs, training, and that was it. That was me apprenticeship.
Okay, so you're a young apprentice, minding the P's and Q's, doing their jobs, and we'll come on to whose boots you cleaned in a minute. So who were the senior pros at that time? Who were the big names in the dressing room?
Well, John Barnwell had just took over, so
right.
With Paul Hart, so we signed Gary Birtles, Jeff Pike, Chris Wade, Andy Gray, I think, was in pre-season as well. So yeah. Derek Pavers had just took over, and so it was like a whole new beginning after Jimmy had left. But obviously we were under the guidance of Mick Walker, you know, and so it was a club which was on the up, and you know, there was a lot of press because of Derek Pavers coming in, and John Mountney was there, Frank Alcock, you know, so there was it was a club on the up and spending a lot of money. So as I said, we're in the headlines quite a bit early doors.
So what were your jobs? Because obviously it's changed with apprentice systems now. So did you have to paint the stand, clean the boots, all of those sorts of things, make the tea? My
main job was Wayne Jones's physio room. So I had to look after that, make sure it was clean and tidy. Obviously, change the sheets on the beds. Make sure it was just clean, mopped, and that every day. And then for games, I had a checklist off Wayne for what was to go in the kit bag, in the first aid bag. You know, like your strappings, plasters, cream, whatever. You know, I just had a hit list on that. So, and then boots, I cleaned Chris Wade's boots. Charlie's boots.
You cleaned Charlie's boots, yeah?
Cleaned Charlie's boots, yeah. Withie's. And someone else, can't remember. God, I'm going to get... No. Oh, I don't know if it was Jeff's. Might have been Jeff.
Was Charlie a good tipper?
Yeah, he was sound. He looked after me because, you know, there was Dave Kevin was there at the time, Paul Barnes, Eddie Snook, Wayne Fairclough, you know. So they were like the young pros. But because the squad was so small, we were playing youth team on a Saturday and then reserves during the week. So, and to be fair, Charlie, yeah, underage, but Charlie used to look after us, yes.
I mean, there's a big debate now, isn't there, about sort of, under 21s, under 23s. So you found yourself in open age football, i.e. reserves, men, fairly quickly after you joined Notts, yeah?
Well, even as a schoolboy, we were playing reserves, because the squad was so small. So if we were down for the summer holidays, we'd, and if there was a reserve game, or school holidays, we'd be playing in the reserves, at 15, which was great. And as you said, mate, it's not under 23 football. Everyone's playing against the same age. You're playing against, I always go for the example, I'm a young lad and, you're playing up, he could be playing up against Brian Kilcline, who's playing for Newcastle reserves. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to learn very, very quickly, or you're just going to, the physicality will be too much for you, and you're going to miss out. But you've got to learn quick. And our upbringing, playing in games like that, was a great start to our careers. No problem.
Were you always kind of the goal scorer in the team? Were you always the man up front or left wing or whatever?
No, it's for reserves. It changed under Mick. Sometimes I played up front, and then I played midfield, and then I played left wing, and then I played right wing. So I think it was trying to get me best position. Reserves, it was, I remember Drapes playing left wing and me playing right wing. And as you have nowadays, inverted wingers, I'm coming in on left foot, Drapes is coming in on his right foot. But I think deep down I always thought I'd end up as a centre forward. I don't know why. Probably Drapes would have mentioned it in his, I used to just shoot on sight. I wasn't, it didn't matter. And people will be laughing now when I watched, I was watching Celtic last night and young Cameron Harper making his debut, was left to the goal. It was so tight an angle. He was never going to score and he should have pulled it back. And I just started chuckling to myself because I would have shot as well. That was just me. My theory was if you don't shoot, you don't score. But I think as I got older, I realised that the teammates were in better places. But yeah, I loved it. We loved playing with Mick, and Mick done the reserves as well. So he was like doing two jobs and playing with experienced players and against experienced players as well is going to bring you on a hell of a lot quicker.
I mean, tell me a bit about Mick Walker, because I mean, he produced or worked with a whole string of players for many, many years, that not just players that went on to play in the top flight like yourself and Drapes, but a lot of players. You mentioned Wayne Fairclough earlier. There were people like Paul Smalley, Darren Davis. There were a lot of players that went on to make a career as a professional footballer coming through Notts, wasn't there? And Mick was kind of pulling it all together.
Mick was the core, to be honest. Yes, he was brilliant. You knew where you stood with Mick. He was a very, very good coach, and so much respect for him. And as you said, the youth team, YTS as we used to call them, the academies nowadays, were just it was just a conveyor belt of players coming through, every year, because the youth system and the scouts that they had, it was unheard of to have a Northeast Notts County scout full time.
Yeah.
In Dunallen. We wouldn't have. There was no way we would have been down if it wasn't for John. So Mick had his scouts dotted around the country, and at the time, Notts was one of the best youth academies around.
It was, and sometimes you see where we are now. It's hard for my son's 23 to think, hang on a minute, why on earth would a player from Newcastle who supports Newcastle come to Notts County? When there was a chance of going to Newcastle. Shows you how times can change. We mentioned Mick Walker there. So you've arrived. Derek has taken over. You're in digs in West Bridgford playing youth and reserve football. John Barnwell's first season ended in playoffs, wasn't it? Defeat at Walsall, I think, over 2 legs. Mm-hmm. So now I think Drapes got slung in before you under John Barnwell, didn't he?
Well deserved.
You got in. No?
Yeah, I think Drapes, which, I've always said Drapes was a great player. I used to call him Grapes. I thought his name was Grapes. I was like, and then after a while he went, "My name, what's my name?" And he went, "Mark." I went, "What's my surname?" He went, "Draper." I says, "Why are you calling us Grapes? It's Grapes." But we hit it off straight away, you know what I mean? God, we still play golf together, still see him all the time, speak to him all the time when he lives up the road. But he deserved it. You know, Drapes was so consistent, scoring goals as well. He was playing on the left, cutting in and scoring a lot of goals. But in my opinion, one of the best. You know, I played with him again at Villa. You know, he took the Premier League by storm. He went to Leicester. You know, had a great season there, and at Villa was fantastic. His energy, up and down, and technically very, very good as well, and scored goals. And his daft as a brush, yeah. So he had every chance, but he thoroughly deserved it. I think obviously the club knew and how good he was, and you know when the time was right, the managers at the two we played under weren't afraid to hide the young'uns in, not at all.
Yeah, good point. So, so under John, playoff, Drapes has got in. You now know there's a pathway to be able to get in because your mates got in. So John got moved on the following season. Neil Warnock came in. Now, had you played first team before Neil came, or was it Neil that ultimately gave you your chance?
Yeah, I played in. Ironically, when I first came down, I come on a sub in the County Cup game against Forest in that summer, and it was, wow, what's going on here? I remember, was it Flem? Might have been right back, or Lawsy. I think it was Flem. I was playing on the left, and he slipped, and I'm clean through. And I've I can't swear on line, can I? What did I do? I bottled it. And I think I side-footed the ball back to the goalkeeper instead of blasting it like I normally did. But that was my first introduction to first-team football. So, and then it was a case of getting back into the youth team and the reserves. And yeah, I think I played in the Sherpa Van Trophy. I think it was
Sherpa Van. That's a
yeah. Last in it, mate. I played in that, I think, and it was rubbish again. Yeah, and I remember Paul Hart pulling us after the game or the next day and saying, are you all right? And he says, what's the matter with you? Just be yourself, and you don't have to prove anything. That's why you got in the team, because you know we like you and all that. And I just remember Hardy having a little bit of a chin wag with us after the game or the next day. And obviously the man was a legend, you know, player, you know, at the highest level, and he was very good for me as well, Paul Hart. But no, I mainly got in under when the gaffer came in, when Neil came in.
So when Neil came in, so not too many people would know too much about him at that point. He'd done very, very well in what we would refer to as non-league. Burton, and you got Scarborough up, hadn't he? And I think the TV cameras were down. I think there were photographers there, and there's some nice shots of sort of Neil going down it may well have been stunted for the press, I don't know, but going down the line of all of you, meeting you, saying hello and all that. I mean, what were your first impressions?
The gaffer was sound, you know. The club had made the decision, obviously, with John to let him go, and I think John Newman took over for a bit, and then the gaffer came in. But as we realise now, that's football. Do you know what I mean, mate? I said nothing will ever surprise me in football, you know, with what's gone on over the years. So managers come and go, and your initial thought is, well, I want to impress him. Do you know what I mean? As a new manager, there's going to be obviously 20, 25 players looking to impress him to get in the team, and he probably knew most of us. He'd probably done all his homework on us. So I was still a young lad, you know, so to be training, and I think I was a pro then as well. I was a professional, me and Drapes, and you know, it was just to impress him and be part of the first team squad, and then be sub, and then get into the team. So it was just carrying on as normal for myself. You know, we as you get older and you play for or you don't play for managers, or managers don't like you, and then they get the sack, and then you're delighted when they leave. But not for John Barnwell, you know, he gave me my debut, and it's just out after the playoff when we got beat off Walsall. But you just want to impress the new manager, basically.
Neil, I guess, would have been very different in his approach to John.
The gaffer is, up there with Martin and Neil as the best man manager that I've ever had.
Okay, go on.
He got the best out of average players. Myself, I include myself in that, John had gone a different way by bringing Gary Birtles in, Jeff Pike, Gary Mills. I think the gaffer wanted to turn it around and bring younger players in, players who it probably would a same level and lower level compared to Notts County, like you put Dean Thomas in, Paul Harden, Dave Regis, Alan Paris, Phil Turner, not household names, but God, did it work. We had such a good team spirit. It was frightening, and the gaffer and Mick Jones were a massive part of that. The man management of them was very, very good.
So you talk about great man management. How did that manifest itself? Was he tough on you? Did he, bring you up, down? How did he do it, say, with you personally as a young lad coming through?
It depends, mate. I think, you've got to, football's totally different nowadays. You can't, not shout and ball, but I think people get the points across differently nowadays, shall I say. The gaffer, when you needed to be told it, when you were wrong or you weren't doing the business, you were told, and when you were doing well, he was brilliant. You know what I mean? He just had this knack of knowing when to cuddle you and when to give you a rolligan. And everyone used to say he was a long ball merchant. We weren't. We just played our strengths. Yeah. We did, and in the gaffer, and I played for him again when I went to Sheffield United, towards the end of my career. He's a very, very astute man. You don't manage 1,500 games as a manager if you're an absolute balloon. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have some nonsense about your game. And he was very, very good. Yeah.
As a young lad, were you afraid of him or not?
No, I just took, I don't know if it sounds daft or what, mate. I just took everything in my stride, you know what I mean? I was schoolboy, then I became an apprentice, and then I became a pro. So to be fair, I think I valued, not more than anyone, I got injured when I was an apprentice. I broke my ankle. I fractured my ankle when I was at Newcastle, playing against Newcastle for the reserves in my first year in the February time. So I think I could have finished us. I didn't realise how bad the injury was. Luckily for me, I didn't need an operation, but I was in one of them old pots for 6 weeks, 2 months, all summer. I was training, and then I came back, and my calf, I kept getting pain in my calf, and my calf wasn't strong enough, so I had to do extra work. So I think that made it even more in my head, in my mind, and my attitude to that I wanted to make it. Because, I'd been through that quite a serious injury for such a young lad, So I was fortunate, and, I just loved playing, and, we'll probably go on, I was fortunate to have the career I have, but was I scared of the gaffer? At times, yes. Oh my God, he could let rip, to be fair. But then he was great, when we got into the Premier League as it is now, the old First Division, we... after a couple of months, I was going through a hard time, I wasn't playing well and all that. And he pulled us in his office and he says, right, get yourself home, Tommy. Go home for a week. No football, just get away. Go and see your family. Go and see your mates. And then just get away for a week. When I'm not going to involve you on the Saturday. He says, I just want you go and have a rest and then come and recuperate and get back into it. Which was brilliant. I was 19. And as I said, he's got very, very caring side as well.
Off the pitch, so what is life like for a young? No, you told me the story for the book about you wanted a house and Drapes wanted a car, and that kind of worked out quite well for the pair of you, correct?
It was great. Drape still lived at home in Long Eaton, and he's always been mad on cars. You know what I mean? He always wanted a nice car and all that. And he said, "Well, I can pass my test." And I just went, "Well, I'm the other way. I wanted my own place. You know, I left the Robin Julie's digs, and then we went to the old Pavilion Lodge, which stops at the Forest Ground, which Derek had paid for. So I was in there for however long, and then I signed pro, started saving money. And I said, the first thing I wanted to do for myself was to buy a flat. You know, I wanted my own place. And then Drapes was the other way, because he was living at home. He could save money and buy a car and get his test done. So, yeah, I ended up buying a place down Castle Boulevard, just next to Castle Marina, Sainsbury's. And I don't know if it's still there. I think it is, yeah, Sainsbury's. So Charlie Palmer, Don O'Riordan used to live over Derby Way along the A52, and then they used to pick Drapes up, and then I used to just be standing on Castle Boulevard every morning for training, waiting for one of them three to pick us up. But that was just, that's the way it was. I probably would have been different if I'd been up in Newcastle. I think I probably still would have gone my way and bought a place first before I learned to drive. And then learning to drive, I'd done a crash course. I'd done a 2-week crash course. It was pre-season, I think it was. And I thought, I need to get this sorted, you know what I mean? So we'd be training, and then I'd have a few hours in the afternoon. I think.
Did you pass first time?
I did. I passed about 2 weeks after I started lessons. Yeah, it was 4 hours a day. I was doing it nearly every day during the week, in the afternoon, and yeah, I passed first time. So
what was your first car?
I had a Vauxhall Astra 1.2, I think it was, blue, E-Reg. It was through Gene Thomas, actually. His mate used to run a leasing firm or something. So in them days, you just used to buy your car, didn't you? I think I paid about three grand for it. So it was all right, yeah. Done the job for us, yes.
Back on the pitch. I remember I used to do a bit of freelance stuff with Radio Trent, as it then was, or Gem. And I remember going to see Neil one time to do an interview. And the first thing that amazed me was his office was like at the end of that dingy old stand.
Yeah.
That can't be that. You know, because it didn't look like there was a door. I must have gone past there from the age of about 5. I never realised there's like a little hidden door that went into. I never knew it existed.
Yeah, he was out the way.
He's there. Come on in, Macy. Come on in. Jesus Christ. And he did a great line in the interview. He said, we play with 10 men. He said, and Tommy Johnson. He said, I line the 10 up. He says, and I just tell Tommy, run around, do your thing. And he said, Tommy will never have it as good as he has it with me. He said, there's no point getting him to try and fit in. 10 men, Tommy, go and do your thing.
It's a great allergy, isn't it? It's because we used to have Phil up front, or Regio, or Lundy, and then it used to be like one of us either side with Kevin Bartlett, and it was a gaffer. He says, you don't even know what you're doing half the time, so how am I gonna know? Go on, it was like a free roll. It was brilliant, and I struggled when I went to Derby because I couldn't, they were structured. And I wasn't, I was just, I was like a fizzy pop. I was just here, there, and everywhere. And wherever the ball went, I was going. And I'd love to know how many miles we used to run during them days, if we had this, the belts on us. But it was great for me. As I said, I struggled a bit when I moved, but at the time it was fantastic because he's just, right, go on then, off you go. Go left side, go right side. As long as one of you is at either side, the big fella. Keep gambling when we play it long, and yeah, it was great for me.
You alluded earlier about team spirit. You became a regular 17/18, and there was the playoff season, the first of the playoff seasons, which ended up with you playing Tranmere. During that season, at what point did you think, I can do this, because you made a very swift transition ultimately from being a kid to being one of the main if you like, stars in the team. You know, people score goals, you know, you attract attention and all the rest of it. So you kind of went very, very quickly from being a nobody to actually being one of the fulcrums of the team, really, because of your goals and your running and the options that you gave the club.
I think I love the gaffer a bit, you know, and we've spoke about him, but Mick Jones was a great assistant for him as well. I think Mick tells a story when he come in, he was saying, why isn't he playing all the time and all that? And the gaffer used to say, well, because he can't last a game, you know what I mean? We'll probably go on to that, where I used to have to go running Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to get my fitness up. But I think it helped. I think the season, but the gaffer came in, I think I played, say, the last 6 games of that season with Drapes. You know, and scored a few goals. So that transition, then we're going on our summer holidays, and then coming back pre-season as a first team squad player. Do you know what I mean, Mason? Feeling part of it and signed a new contract and all that. So future's sorted. You know, we wanted to stay there. I think we both signed new 3-year deals, me and Drapes. So we'd already had the experience of being around the players, the first team, playing games, scoring, etc., winning games, and then coming back pre-season, and then you're going, this is it now, come on. You know, you're part of this, and as I said, you just not took it in your stride, but it was another part of the education of getting older and being a first team player. And I didn't play every week. The gaffer was, you know, at home we played 4-3-3, I think, and then away the gaffer would play 3 at the back. Like, so I remember playing, I think it was Easter time, and I knew when we used to play on the Friday and Monday, so it would have been Good Friday, or the Saturday and Monday. We were playing at home on the Saturday and then away on the Monday. But I knew it wouldn't matter what I'd done on the Saturday, I wouldn't be playing on the Monday. But the gaffer had already told us, because he used to say, right, I'm going to do this on Monday. We're playing such and such. So I'm going to play Don as a sweeper and all that, and I'm leaving you out. But I knew. You know what I mean, mate? So it wasn't a kid, oh my God, gaffer. So it wouldn't matter if I scored a hat-trick. I knew what was going on. But I didn't mind that, because I wanted to play every game. Do you know? But I knew the way he was thinking, and as long as he told us, there was managers who would never, you know, who wouldn't let you know, or wouldn't tell you the truth, you know what I mean? But the gaffer did. He just says, right, he said, this is the way we're going. And it worked. So how could I argue with him, even though I did want to play all the time?
You mentioned Mick Jones. I've known Mick 40 years. Top guy, real what you would call salt of the earth. And I think that there was always a debate, wasn't there, about how Mick ended up being Neil's assistant, and was because Derek had known Mick from, you know, the Jurassic era from when Mick was a player at Notts, because Mick hadn't previously worked alongside in any way, shape or form Neil. And Mick told me this story, and so the kind of two of them got together and hit it off, and away they went. But it was quite unusual, and I suspect Derek played quite a pivotal part in bringing those two together.
I wouldn't disagree with you, Mace, at all. Yeah, but whoever brought them together and how they get together, you know, it was a masterstroke, because they were brilliant together. You know, I've been there. I know what management's like and coaching, and I always say to people now who are going into management, you've got to bring someone in who you can trust.
Oh, absolutely.
It's massive. It is massive. No disrespect to Neil Lennon at Celtic, but he hasn't got anybody in of his own. You know, he hasn't brought anybody in on his own, and you need that, and that's at a club like Celtic, and that's no disrespect to the staff that are there, because they're very good staff. But I've always said to people now, if you're going into a manager's job, you've got to bring someone in who you trust, who's going to have your back as well, and someone who you can talk to. You know, there's certain things, you know. For example, if it was me and say Drapes, you know, I trust him. Plus, he's a very good coach, so why wouldn't I have him in? Do you know what I mean, mate? But it's things where you can bounce things off, where you can't speak to other stuff about, you know. So the two of them worked up. Oh, they were amazing together, and it shows in what we done. And and the gaffer has took Mick almost everywhere he's been, apart from the little fallout I think they had at Plymouth. But apart from that, you know, they've always been together. And I know Mick hasn't been too well lately, but he's getting back on his feet now. And, you know, I texted him actually the other day just to see how he is, because he only lives up the road. And, you know, once we get the pandemic over, I'll go over and see him and have a coffee with him. But, yeah, they work really well together.
Yeah, I think you've hit one of those proverbial nails on the head. And you know, during my time in and around professional football, I remember when Martin came to Leicester and he brought John Robertson in and he originally John at Leicester wasn't his assistant manager. He came in as kind of like head scout. And very quickly, Robbo became assistant. And everything that you've just said there, in terms of trust, advice, guidance, honesty. You know, John was a huge part of Martin's success, and you see managers the huge pressures and strains that they're put under now. Huge. Clearly, at the top level, they're paid a lot of money, but you know, you can see personalities change when you lose 7 games, and how do they? Because everybody wants a piece of you, don't they? Every single players, media, staff, chairman, chief executive, everybody wants a piece, and there's only so much of you. There's only so much of you. And I agree. I thought Mick with Neil worked extremely well. And that kind of worked its way through the club. The team spirit that Neil created at Notts, what was it down to luck? Was there a large amount of skill that went into recruiting players and looking at characters? Was it kind of Neil's own personality that he just imbued into everybody? What do you think it was?
Probably a bit of everything, mate. Nowadays, especially, maybe because there's a lot more money in the game nowadays, there's a lot more due diligence goes on behind the scenes of what a player's character's like. But I think the gaffer just had a knack, and he knew, you know, I've heard stories, a gaffer would go to a game and after 5 minutes he's walked out, say for instance, Paul Arden.
Yeah.
You know, he knows straight away. I've seen enough, that'll do for me. So he wants to sign him, and he knows how to get a dressing room together. He knows, and that's no disrespect to the players that have probably left. I left under the gaffer, you know what I mean? When I went to Derby. So he knows what he wants in a group, and he wants a group that are tight and will work for each other 100%, and good off the pitch as well, and they've got a very, very good dressing room. And we had all that. We had all that.
So you get to Wembley, remarkable run. Arguably, the 2 toughest games for that playoff series were the games with Bolton, weren't they? Because they were very, very close. The old Burnden Park got a draw, then won, I think.
Yeah,
was that it?
1-1 up the road, and then 2-0 at home, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, did Phil score? I think we're getting beat 1-0 and Phil scored.
Yeah.
Phil Turner scored. So 1-1 away from home. It was boiling hot, if I remember rightly. And then at home, I think I scored and Bart scored. Not sure. Is that right? Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, some memory. So, yeah, but whoever you play in the playoffs, you know, I've been on the receiving end of playoff semi-final getting beat, and it's not nice. So, yeah, we were just on a roll, weren't we? We were flying. You know what I mean? We were confident. We weren't cocky, but we knew if we played to the ability we could, we'd probably beat anybody then. And we got to the final, and the gaffer pulled a masterstroke by taking us to Wembley the week before to watch the Leyland Daft Sherpa Band final with Tranmere.
That's right. Tranmere were back to back, weren't they? Weren't you in with the Tranmere fans?
Yeah. It was masterstroke because no one had been to Wembley. No one didn't know what the atmosphere was like. No one, the surroundings, the way it was. And we went down and just sat there and watched the game.
Did you get much jip from the Tranmere fans? Because were you in tracksuits or?
I can't remember, to be honest with me. I can't remember last night. I can't remember then. It's, but it just, gaffers like, there you go, have a look. This is what you're playing in front of next week. So, brilliant. You know, it's like, it's different. The Champions League, Europa League, playing in Europe, you train on the pitch the night before, don't you? You go and have a look around the pitch, see
Yeah.
what the surroundings is all like. But this is Wembley. You know, we're 19, some of me in Drapes. You're playing at Wembley. And you're like, oh, this is brilliant, this. So he did it, him and Mick pulled the master stroke up doing that. So we got a sense of the atmosphere, and we deserve to beat Tranmere. Do you know what I mean? We were the better team on the day, and as I said, the confidence was high at the time because we were on such a roll. And you know, everyone says like the Gaffer long ball team, but we had a very good team. We had good players. We had a great squad. So, you know, we deserved to go.
So just take me back to the night before, because Neil used to stop at the Wembley Hilton, didn't he? Which was basically walkable from Wembley Stadium. So the night before, so you and Drapes would have been roommates, yeah? So there's two 18-year-olds or whatever you was age, the night before the Tranmere game. I mean, in your little twin beds. I mean, what happens? Do you watch the telly? Do you go to bed early? Do you not go to sleep at all till 3 a.m? What happens?
I love me kit, mate. God, I think we used to play cards. Not till late, but it was just like, you know, we obviously had a few. It was just like a normal away trip, to be honest. You know, we went down. We trained probably at the ground, at our the training ground, and a bit of food, and then down on the bus, and then a bit of dinner at the hotel, and then that's it. You know, just game of cards, and then bed, and then next morning you're up again. You know, it's like another game, really. Even though it's not, it's the biggest game of our careers. Even though we'd only been there, we were only 19. So, and when you're young, mate, you don't get nervous. You just embrace it and you get excited. You know, there was no nerves at all from my side of it. My nerves was when I went to Derby, and you know, they paid a lot of money for you. And then when you go to Aston Villa and Celtic and all that, that was more pressure for me. But we were young and just embraced it. Can't say any more about that because we said we deserved the win, and now we're going into the championship. Some party on the way back on the bus and going back with all the Notts fans up the M1, and then back to the ground, and then drink until it's coming out with your logos. Do you know what I mean? So.
We'll come on to the medal age celebration for the Brighton game, because if Drapes is to be believed, isn't that when your dad got on stage to have a little word? We'll come on to that in a minute. So you're now a championship club, second tier club, call it what you will. I mean, two players we've not mentioned yet. Probably the best centre halves outside the Premier League at that time, anyway. Was Craig Short and Dean Yates, yeah? And they were both young, both no pretensions of grandeur or anything like that, but they were massive parts of the rise, weren't they? Those two, huge.
Dear me. Well, Shorty was a right winner apparently at Scarborough when the gap was there, and then brought him to centre half. And Dino, you know, I'd grown up with Dino as a schoolboy, obviously a few years older than me. A young player, and was a regular when I came down as an apprentice, and you could see straight away he was going to have a great career. You know, he was so cultured. You know, he was hard as well. People don't realise that, but when Dino, you know, he could get stuck into you as well as playing with the ball. They just complemented each other so much. And then when Don played sweeper as well, the two of them were still centre half. But everybody knew, you know, the beast, I call him the beast. He's still one of my best mates, you know. I speak to him 2-3 times a week. That he's down at Oxford. So, but they did complement each other. Shorty was the one, if you're going to say, who was the animal of the two of them. Who was going headed and kick it, you know. The gaffer who used to have just pass it to someone who can play football, Shorty. That's all I want. But Shorty could handle the ball as well. Do you know what I mean? He 750 games he played in his career, but they were just both complemented each other, and you could see they were both going to go on. No disrespect to not, so they would go on to big and better clubs, you know, in a higher division.
higher standard that second season, but in many respects it was kind of a carbon copy, wasn't it? It started okay, no, no massive deal, but finished the season so strongly.
Finished. Oh,
When did you start to think it could be a back-to-back promotion?
You're right, mate. It was a carbon copy. We started all right. We were always there or thereabouts. We'd have a few dodgy results, but then we'd come back fighting again. The Gaffer done the same. It was, I would be playing home games, away games if it was. But I think it got to the stage where Mick was saying, well, you've got to play him, he's scoring or whatever. So you've got to. So in the team, yeah. And you're right, the last couple of months, we were flying again. I think we're probably even better than we were the previous season. I don't know, did we win something like, I don't know. It's
the last 7 or 8 on the bounce, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was something like that. And we were just like, and you've got Middlesbrough in the playoffs, and that's no walk in the park, shall we say.
Well,
another difficult game.
Drape's knackered it up for the old trophy presentation.
That's right.
Last game of the regular season at West Ham.
That was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because obviously you just mentioned they're all ready to give the trophy to West Ham, and then Drape sticks one in. I think he stuck one in with his left foot as well.
He scored 2, didn't he? Got 2 that day.
So they had I don't know where.
The helicopter one, it took it up to Oldham or something.
So yeah, we're in the playoffs again. Middlesbrough, up to Middlesbrough. I think we drew 1-1 again.
Yeah, those games were both very, very close, weren't they? Very close.
We drew 1-1 up there, and then
Paul Harding
scored. Yeah, I got injured. I came off, I think, after about 20-25 minutes with a dead leg. And then Butter scored a great header. Absolute fantastic header from about 12 yards. And then the scenes afterwards were class. It was brilliant. He would go on Wembley again, and it was, as we said before, it was just a replica of the previous season.
Brighton, and we always remember Brighton because of that ridiculous, red and flecked kit, didn't we? I remember they were playing, and they had Clive Walker playing, didn't they?
Yeah.
But again, bossed the game from start to finish, and we've heard before from people about the Chubby Brown video rather than the video of Brighton's tactical analysis. You kind of really steamrolled at them that day. And when you think there was so much at stake, it's rare you get a playoff game that was as one-sided and as dominant as that.
Yeah, well, we did go back, I'm repeating myself again, Mayor. So we were confident, weren't arrogant, but we knew if we played to our ability that we'd win. And there was no arrogance amongst that at all. We started well. I got the goal, I think it was ahead of the first one. Yeah. And then the second one was on the left-hand side. As I said, we're going back to what I said very early in this interview about shooting on sight. I just got it out my foot. And I think Gaffer's always said, I never had any backlift. It was me follow through that, so keepers didn't know I was shooting. I had such a little short backlift. It was just the power of the follow through that, got me the power. And I connected sweetly with it, to be fair. I remember, I think Rejo laid it off, or Phil laid it off to us, and I was on the corner of the box, and I've just put it across the keeper, and, there was a bit of swerve on it and all that. But, 2-0. Rejo scored, and then I think they got one back.
Yeah.
But, we were worthy winners again. Worthy winners, just like the Tranmere game at Wind, and that is a proper party. That is, you're going into the with the big boys now. So after that game was just, once you see the fans and your family on the pitch, and then you're in the dressing room and you do all the interviews, because I know it's not as mad as it is nowadays, but
clearly everyone wanted to speak to you, didn't they? Because you got
everyone was just everyone. I think I used to keep a scrapbook of all my cuttings and all that. It was obviously newspapers then, because there was no.
Did you? Yeah, you still got them.
I've still got them. Yeah, I've still got my scrapbooks from throughout my career here. So we just all done interviews. you know, it was a collective effort. Yeah, I'd scored 2, but it wasn't down to me. It was down to all of us. You know, it was such a great team and team spirit, and the whole squad had got us there. And, you know, and got the interviews out of the way, and, you know, you've probably seen the photos in the bath at Wembley drinking champagne, and then the journey back, as I said again, going up the M1 with all the fans, and then back to the ground again. It was the same in our lovely Notts County Blazers and Farrers.
Yeah, we've in previous ones we've spoke about this, because didn't Derek get the premium Hugo Boss version or whatever it was, and the players had the takedown version, the more cheap and cheerful suits, I believe.
We had Hugo No Boss. That's what we had. Yeah.
Yeah. You can afford Boss now, though. I can see on there you got Boss now.
I've got something to wear now. I don't need a tracksuit, mate, at home. I thought I better stick a top on, and I put some jeans on. I think early days of lockdown, when you've seen videos of people looking smart at the top, and then they've got they're hanging out tracksuit bottoms on. So no, I've got to put a pair of jeans on for you as well.
Because when you did the one for the club with Neil and Shorty, Neil still got the old blazer and flannels, hadn't he? And he put it on. Do you reckon he must have let the vents out at the back? Because it still seemed to fit him on, unless he was holding everything in.
I think the jacket was all right. I think he was whinging about his trousers being a bit tight. So he had to get Sharon to get him another pair of trousers. But and I remember, I think a few years ago, when the ex-Notts County, you know, commemorated us.
Yes.
And Dean Yates turned up in his Notts County blazer and tie and flannels. But it saved us wearing our own suits, didn't it? To be fair, Mason, spending money on suits.
I trust you've still got yours framed somewhere.
Mine, my dad had mine, and unfortunately he passed away a couple of years ago, so it was probably in with the rest of his stuff. But
good cue. It was a good cue for your dad, because
he used to wear it.
Did he?
Oh gosh, he used to love wearing it.
Did he? Yeah. Well, I said, wander around, he'd come to get there, he'd have your suit on.
Yeah. No. After I'd left Notts, he'd still wear it up home and all that when I used to go and visit him.
Really? Oh, what a lovely story.
Yeah.
What a lovely story. And he was very proud of your 2-goal performance. And Drape's told me this one. So you're in the Meadow Club. The drink is flowing.
I'm going to tell you the proper story.
Oh, God. Tell me the proper story then. Go on.
Well, we had the Meadow Club, which was on Meadow Lane, and then we had the 2 other bars, which were where the reception is now.
Yeah.
And then you had where Lawton's bar is now in the corner. So
yes,
we were all separated. Because obviously there was loads of fans in the Meadow Club. There was loads of fans behind the main stand. So I didn't know this. I didn't know about my dad. So my dad was out his tree as well, you know what I mean? Why not? I would be if it was my, son or daughter. But so I didn't know anything about it. And I think the gaffer's making a speech and saying, well done to the lads, and Shorty done well, Ches has been brilliant. And then apparently, as you said, Drape says, my dad got up on stage and shouted, what about War Tommy, man? And I was like, oh my God. And then I didn't know this until obviously Drapes and the lads had told us. And I was like, I'm just so embarrassed, because I get embarrassed quite easy, believe it or not. I don't like talking about myself. You know, I'm doing it for 2 hours, like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I get quite embarrassed about what I've done and my career and all that. So when they said he'd done that, I was like, oh my God, Dad, be quiet. Do you know what I mean? Like any child would done to the parents.